Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Kelsey Kohs. Thank you for being here with me tonight. This is the Divination Academy. I am so excited to be here with you. Again, my name is Professor Kelsey Kohs. This is my Divine Masculine devotional series that I'm doing, where we're going over different male deities. I've been doing a lot of the dark goddesses for a while, and I am a gray witch and a mystic and a solo practitioner, so I really thrive in duality, and I'm all about balance. And so I really wanted to start making sure that I was creating that balance and teaching all energies. So that's why I started making sure to do these as well. I think this is my second or my third in this series. I can't remember. The last one we did was Hades. I was really, really excited to do that one. If you missed that one, the recording should be up in a little bit. So I'm really excited to see that. I know that we have some new students here. So we have a little bit of housekeeping we have to do before we get going. If you have not been with us before, or if it's been a while, we are Divination Academy. Super, super excited that you found us and that you're here. We are a free pagan academy. Everything that we do is always free. We will never ask you for anything. We offer a lot of things like retreats, certification programs, private apprenticeships, all of these classes. I don't remember what number we're at. We're like at over like 130, I think, on YouTube. And I think we have like 30 plus more, I think, that need to get put up. So we have a lot of classes and things that we do. We have newsletters that get put out. We have chats that you can be a part of, a lot of stuff. If any of that interests you and you like what you see with me tonight, please send us a direct message to our page saying that you want to enroll so you can get enrolled and you can get access to all of that. If you have not been with me before, I touched on it a little bit as well. My name is Professor Kelsey Kohs. I have been a solo practitioner up until this last year, and I started teaching here. I've been practicing for about 15 plus years at this point. I am a gray witch. I consider myself a mystic. I pull from every path. I learn from everywhere. So in my study guide, which the link should be in the chat for you, I pull from like the culture, the anthropology, the history. I pull from the religions. I pull from the magic. Like everywhere is how I learn and how I encompass and how I practice and how I teach. With that being said, with me being a great practitioner, I teach everything also not in a love and light sense. I teach it from all aspects. I teach it in a sense of balance. And I don't look at things as good versus evil. That's not something you'll hear me teach at as well. So if you're new, that's not something you'll hear from me as well. If you like what you see, you can check out these 3 links I'm going to pop into the chat here for you. That is our Facebook page to send to enroll. You also have our website where all of our study guides are, all of our information about our professors are, our resources, all of that are. And then you also have our YouTube page where we have, so like I said, I think we're like over 130 classes on that page right now that are for free for you to watch. On herbalism, tarot, we have Celtic Fae mythology, Jinn mythology, we have Enochian magic, we have how to work with demons, we have moon magic, we have so much stuff on there, so just go and check it out. I think that's all I have for housekeeping. If you guys have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. If you're new, you can pop in the chat that you're new and we can say, say hi, let us know that you're here. Because I'm super, super excited to have you here. If anybody needs the study guide link, please put in the chat before I get started here. If there's any questions or any comments that people want to make or ask before we get going, now is the time as well. So does anybody need the study guide link? Otherwise, we will get going. Hi, Rodney. Super excited to have you here tonight. I'm super, super glad you found us. Okay, I don't see anybody asking for it, but I'm honestly just going to pop it in here just because. So in case you need the study guide. Oh, there we go. Somebody did ask for it. Yes, we do have classes on Norse runes. We do have classes on Norse runes, and I believe Alex is still ongoing teaching that one. So I think she still is teaching that one right now. It just is a mix with a bunch of other classes that she teaches. Her and I teach a lot of different series, so a lot of them rotate through. I think I'm teaching like, oh my goodness, like 6 on top of like the moon ceremonies. So she teaches a lot of topics too. So yes, there is a class on Norse runes, and there are videos already on the YouTube page on those too. They're great. They're fabulous. Awesome. We do have lots of new people. Fabulous. Yay. Okay, so typically, just so you guys know, I do usually actually summon the deity and we go through, like, I bring you as a guide and I guide you through experiencing them. My son, though, has been sick and now I'm not feeling very well. And I also have like a huge summoning I need to do for Lilith this weekend because I'm running a workshop on her this weekend. So tonight, I'm not going to do that. So we're going to do all the teaching. If you're curious and want to experience that, there are a bunch of videos that I already have on YouTube where you can experience that. Persephone's pretty awesome to experience with me. So you can take a look at her. Hell's pretty awesome too, and Hell is Loki's daughter. So I do have a video on her already as well, on YouTube that you can check out. Okay, so we will get going here. Also, if you're new, I will periodically jump into the chat. You can put stuff in the chat whenever you want. That's totally fine. I just may not see it right away because I get distracted. So I don't have the chat up all the time. And then I jump in and out of all of the material I'm teaching from. So I will jump back in periodically to go and answer questions and things like that. Also, I'm not the best at pronouncing things. I will say that and let you know right off the bat now and almost every single time before I pronounce things. If you ever want to jump in and correct me, go for it. I have no problem with you doing that. Oh, awesome. We have a couple other new people popping in the chat too. Yay. And you've already watched some of the YouTube. Fabulous. I love that. That makes me super happy. I'm glad that you can be here live. I hear it's different. And personally, when I watch videos versus live, it is different. So I'm excited you can be here. Okay, let's get going into our study guide. So Loki is actually probably one of the most popular, I honestly would say more popular than Thor at this point even. Probably one of the he's most popular out of the Norse mythology pantheon, I would say, even versus the Allfather Odin. And Loki is very complicated, he's very controversial, but he's also very charismatic. He is a Germanic and Norse deity. A lot of times, really, if you even just like say his name or start talking about him, it will invoke really long, lengthy conversations full of a lot of debate. You'll even have times where people will literally try to just like scare you away from working with him and tell you that he's pretty much the Norse mythology's equivalent of Satan. I hear that often, and I hear all the scare tactics that come with that I'll usually revolve around him. Most people try to convince you that he's completely destructive and deceitful and chaotic, and he's the bringer of the end of the world and just awful and terrible, and stay away from him. In a way, yes, all of that is correct. Yes, but you also have to look at the perspective of those words, how they're used, and also in a lot of ways, I feel like he's actually very justifiable for how he feels and how he acts in a lot of reasons. He also represents things that the universe / the multiverse, depending on which theory you believe in, needs and represents. We need that chaos, we need that destruction. I know I have new students in here, but I'm pretty much sure every single class, no matter what topic I am teaching, this gets talked about. The duality and the fact that in order for any type of birth to happen, there needs to be a death, or any type of construction or creation, there needs to be destruction. We literally cannot have anything exist in the universe without those two poles of energies, without those two opposing energies. It literally just is not a thing within us, within everything, within the universe, and every single being. And he really is the representation of that, and that's really what he comes into, and that's what he's there for. In modern times, Loki has often, like I said, been compared to the figure of Satan. I feel like this is super, super incorrect, though. Mainly because when you look at this, Loki is still actually like he wants to make sure that like the order of the cosmos is still like in place. Like he's still interested in preserving the cosmic order, while Satan is really actually like supposed to be like a fierce rival of that order, depending on which view you look at. I'm gonna disclaimer there at that as well. And it's actually like really widely believed that Loki is actually the adopted son of Odin and the half brother of Thor. There's also the thought that they are actually there's also the verbiage where Odin specifically calls Loki his brother, and then Loki is actually Odin's like blood half brother, not Thor's. So depending on which parentage you go with, he's really, really seen like he actually has that pivotal role. And even though he's seen as like this anti character, he's seen as like this antagonist. He's seen as, like I said, that destruction. He's seen as that chaos. He's seen as that like I hate this word, but the evil energy, I use it just because most people, that's just how they recognize that energy and that opposing energy as nowadays. But he is seen as that, but he's still actually like still kind of welcomed into the fold for the most part. Like he's still a part of the Aether and he's still a part of like the gods and all of that. And he's not quite like shunned and pushed out like Satan is. So I feel like that comparison is just really incorrect. And I really just like don't like it. So I wanted to touch on that a little bit. Now let's touch on the rest about what people say about him. First, is he deceitful? Well, yeah, but isn't everybody at times? Like we literally all lie in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a little white lie or not, whether it's subconscious or not, whether it's a big one, whether you literally can't help yourself and you just are manipulative and you lie all the time. Like there's a whole spectrum when it comes to it. But we all lie at times. So yeah, is he deceitful? Sure. It's human nature though to be deceitful. It's also human nature to be mischievous. When it comes to me like working with him, do I find him mischievous in a sense? Yes. Does he come across in that sense? Yes. At times though, it's more of like this playful, like playing pranks and to manipulate to get things that he wants, and at times to get things that he wants. And to me, that's a very human characteristic. We all do that. If you think that you don't, you do. At some point in time, you manipulate yourself, you manipulate others, you manipulate a situation, you manipulate to get what you want in some way, shape, or form. It happens. It's literally just a part of what we do. So that's more like the energy that he comes off to me. It doesn't come off to me as like this big, like malevolent, like I want to conquer the world, like narcissistic, I don't care about anybody else type of energy. That's not like how he's perceived to me, and that's not how a lot of other people perceive him either. But yeah, can he be deceitful? Sure. So, but everybody can. So I just wanted to touch on that part of him. Secondly, with him being a god of mischief and destruction and chaos, he inherently is feared. But like I've taught about in every single class, like I've taught about all the time, like destruction is absolutely necessary for anything new to be rebuilt. And as human nature, we are terrified of this concept and we really have a hard time understanding it. And the fact that he represents this, I think, is why this inherent fear is there. We also have to, Christianity plays a role in this, and the stigma in society and all of that, that's playing a role as well. But there is this energy exchange in order for anything new to be created that has to happen to be birthed into this multiverse, and has to happen, and he really represents that. And Ragnarok, by the way, like it's happened before multiple times, it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen multiple times again. It's not something new. It's the next time it happens won't be the first, it's not the last, and it'll happen again. It has to happen in order for there to be balance within the multiverse. It's literally just the way it is. So I wanted to touch on that a little bit in the beginning when it talks about like how people try to fear him and paint him nowadays in modern times. Also, third, when you look at things from Loki's perspective, a lot of things that he does to me is very, very justifiable. Especially what he does and how the actions that he takes against the Aesirs and certain gods within the Aesir and his feelings. Depending on which version of his parentage that you look at, the story we look at it to where Odin is his brother and by blood, the way that Odin treats him, like wouldn't you retaliate back that way if your brother treated you that way? Because I probably would. My brothers have done some pretty like messed up crap, and like I retaliated in some messed up ways at times. But like they also banish his children literally just because they're a part of a prophecy, and we don't even know the full prophecy, by the way. And he punishes them literally. Like, is that justifiable? Like, is that justifiable for them to automatically do? And is his reaction to them for doing that justifiable? I think yes. If somebody were to literally take my child from me and go and imprison them somewhere all because of some prophecy, you can bet I am going to rain hell down on this universe with that happening. I will tear apart anybody's life who would possibly do that to me. So that's kind of another way to kind of look at it from his perspectives. And then also, like, was his punishment actually justifiable for like what he did for killing Boulder? Like, was it really like, is his punishment actually like justifiable to the level that it should be for what he did? Like, gods kill other gods like all the time. Like, and he died. Like, it's a part of life. Like, he shouldn't be any more special, any more revered than any other god. So that's the other things to look at with that when that comes to. When it comes to my experience with Loki and why I'm kind of talking about this and where I'm coming at from this, I talked about it briefly before, like in the study guide too. I've worked with him. I do still when I feel the call from him and when I want to work with chaos and transformation magic. Also like when I'm going into really, really, really deep shadow work. I really love to have him there. He's great. He was really pivotal personally for me when it came to like completely unboxing and like fully accepting like my sexual identity and letting go the fact of what the image of my marriage says to other people versus what my sexual identity actually is, and like completely alienate, like completely breaking through the box and like not even caring about that anymore. He's super pivotal in that with shadow work with that and that type of transformation magic. He's also great for amplifying just your magic because he is such a skilled magician. Like his knowledge on magic, like throughout the myths and stories with all of his shapeshifting alone should be just enough to prove like how powerful he really is. And also how many like creatures he births and like he's a part of with that. Um, but he is just like really great when it comes to that. He's not my patron deity though, so he's not somebody that like I'm super, super intensely close to work with. I've spent a year studying him, mainly because of the region that I live in. I live in Minnesota, so it made a lot of sense for that to be one of the first pantheons I looked at, the Norse pantheons, when I went down this path. Also, my family's heritage is very Germanic. Granted, I wasn't raised in that, but that was another reason for why I did quite a bit of study when it came to him and on him. But I'm not like an ordained like Godi or anything like that. But because I'm a gray witch and a mystic and I thrive in the liminal space, that's why I really, really, really enjoy working with him and why I do have, like I said, it's not the most intense relationship I have with a deity, but it is pretty close. I would say he's probably the second most intense relationship I have with a male deity, I would say. Besides Hades, he's probably the second. And he is really, really lovely to work with, especially in liminal spaces. And to access your liminal space like through his chaos and through his understanding of chaos and through his understanding of like balance and like it's just fabulous. And his understanding of fluidity is amazing. I'm gonna jump in the chat before we go into really the nitty gritty of really who he is and myths and legends and things like that. Yep, he's known as trickster god. I am gonna definitely get into that. Trickster god, god of mischief, all of that fun stuff. Definitely known for that energy, definitely known for like the chaos. Some people like really don't like say to shy away from working with trickster entities and like trickster deities and all that. I love them, like they're so much fun. They can show you so much. Like there's so much that you can see within the shadows and within the shadows of yourself and like being able to move in and out of them and the liminal spaces. Like there's so much fun. Granted, you always want to make sure you have your protections and your own barriers and your energy is pretty solid when you're working with them, but they are so much fun to work with and what they can show you. I love them. Go ahead, honey. Ah, sorry, I might drink a little bit more than I do normally do when I teach, by the way. I don't like my voice to go out. My throat hurts. Go ahead. Ah.
Um, what I know he's known as the trickster god or mischief maker, but what kind of like how should I put this? Day-to-day archetype would he be? Like the fun uncle, the annoying but lovable brother, divorced dad who just wants to be liked.
Um,
Ye-
like the comedic, the prankster, the like if you want to like really look at if you want to I feel so stupid that this is the comparison that's coming to my mind. But if you kind of want to look at him in a way, I hate this. This is the first time in my life, by the way, I've ever seen this show in the last like 2 days. But Bart Simpson kind of like the pulling the pranks, the being and the mischievous, like doing stuff like that. Like if you really want to look at it, kind of like that kind of sense. He's way more intelligent though, so like I hate like putting that like kind of image and label on him because he's so intelligent. But that's kind of where you would want to go. But he is a shapeshifter too, so he's known to be any gender. And he's known to be multiple other species too.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. So
Does
like
that kind
Bert's
of answer your question?
it does. So like Bert's personality, but with a PhD.
Yeah, there we
Or two.
go. I wish I could think of a better example. It's literally just the only show like that's been on in my house in the last like couple days. It's because my husband's been binging it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, reminds me of the mascot role dysfunction. And yeah, yes, I will agree with that. You can kind of, yes, yes, you can agree with that. I will agree with that. That like mixed with like, you know, those really, really intelligent people, like they have the ability to be funny and like play pranks on you and like be the class clown, but they always do it in a way that's like just a smidge like too mean and like a smidge too harsh. And they're also the people that are like insanely intelligent and like they have, but like they really teeter that line of like they have the ability to do that for either the greater good or not for the greater good. So like that type of energy too. Like that's really kind of like where you get at with him and kind of like what you feel with him. I hope that helps. Yeah, laughter is a coping mechanism for sure. Like you definitely get that from Loki at times, for sure. He also is very like he's very intense though too, especially when it comes to shadow work. But also too, like the pranks part of it, when you think about it, he's also not like he's really doing it in a way to like get attention. Because if you think about it, like you kind of have to do like the most like absurd, obnoxious, like out of the box things you can possibly think of to get the attention of people truly powerful, like to get to the attention of people truly powerful that are like gonna like that you need to get the attention of to like make a difference or to like that you really want to impact and that are really impacting you, like that's really how you do it. Like is you really do it in that way where you do those things that are like yeah they're harmful but like you can still kind of fix them. It's like it's not bad. He has a really great way of helping me with finding hard truths and embracing who I am. Yes, I love that, Tammy. That is really what I love about him too. He's really, really great for doing that. He really, really, especially when it comes to like your inner child. That's where you can really get that like pulling from him of embracing who I am and like who people are beneath your like who you are beneath your surface and who they are too. Is he really, especially for me, and I've read and I've heard from a couple other people I've spoken to about it, is like he really pulls your inner child out of the shadows from either where they're willing and they want to hide and where they're being comfortable or where you have forced them to and kind of like ignored them at for so long. And he really like thrusts them out of those shadows and he really pulls at them and pulls them out to really, really, really like work with them and to be seen and to be heard. Yeah, yes, very much inner child and working with children. Oh yeah, he very much does. And that's the other thing about him too. This is getting a little bit sidetracked, but it does it's in the study guide I want to talk about anyways. That's the other thing too, when it comes to people trying to paint him in such this negative light and this negative connotation, like he has quite a few children and he's very loving of them and he's very caring of them. And he's very like protective of them. And so like he does have that very loving, that very like understanding. Like he has quite a few children, and one of them he even burst like to literally like to make sure Asgard gets built, and he helps in the building the construction of Asgard, and then like two like to help out all of the other deities in the Aesir because they want to back out of the deal they made. So like he does care and he does things to help them and he does things to help other people. He's not always this like negative entity and this negative being. And that's another reason really why I want to talk about him too. What does he prefer to shapeshift into? Oh, there's so many different stories. So I mean, there's the snake. He's also a horse, and like he's a mare. That's actually how we get Slipnir. He also has been known to transform into women. There are stories of him transforming into giants because he also is half giants. There's that the wolf too. Things like that. The question I got in my direct message, I don't understand. I need clarification on that, if you could please.
You said that he likes children. Does that include special needs children?
I
Even
don't
if
know
they
why. Go ahead.
Does that include special needs children, even once they become adults, even but they have the mind of a child?
I don't know why it wouldn't.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions before we jump back in? You guys had a lot. I love it. I love it when you guys have lots of questions. Okay, I told you so. Yep. Yeah, Loki's very much like that. I told you so. Lessons learning the hard way. Yep. I can definitely embody. Yeah. Okay. I don't see anything else. Cool. So we'll jump back in. So, who is Loki? Loki, he's a trickster, shapeshifter. He is the cause and the solution to Asgard's greatest troubles, and he is famously known for his cunning and tricky nature. Although his father is a giant, and I'm not going to pronounce it right, so I'm just going to spell it. It's Farbauti. He still actually gets included among the Aesir, which is the tribe of gods in the Norse pantheon. If you don't know all the details and the ins and outs of the Norse pantheon, that's okay. I'm not going to teach that today. I'm really specifically only focused on Loki. At some point in time in my new series I'm starting this month, I will get to the Norse. I know Alex talks about a lot of it in her Norse runes class. I'm pretty sure we have some resources on the website too. But it's okay. Like, what you'll need to know, I will make sure that I give you a little disclaimer. You don't need to know all the details and ins and outs of it today. But so although his father, like I said, was a giant, he still wasn't considered among the Aesir, which is like the tribe, the head council of gods, if you want to call it that, in the Norse mythology. There are some people that will argue this and say that no, he's not considered a part of the Aesir, but most people do accept this belief. But you actually will find some points of contention in that. Even with one historians and anthropologists and archaeologists, even still, they argue about that often. Because like I said, some simply consider him to be a giant because he's half giant, so they simply put him there because of his father. And actually some consider him an entire full giant because his mother is a giantess as well. So one way in which Loki is different from the Aesir gods, though, is that he actually did not have like an area of responsibility that he actually symbolized, such as war or fertility. Like, we didn't really have that. He really was just considered this trickster that was running around causing mischief. He was like being annoying for the Aesir. He was making their lives hard. He was doing a bunch of stuff he wasn't supposed to do, and him and his children are the reason why the world's gonna end. That's really what he was seen and painted at. He really wasn't given like this area of responsibility that didn't really come until like more like neo-paganism that didn't come till later, till you see like this chaos come out with representing him. That doesn't really come out until around the 1960s when you get more of the Lokian practice, you get more of the Lokian worship and things like that. But really, he really was just considered this trickster, and he was just considered, this member of the Aesir that kind of was like folded in. There's a couple different theories about it. Might as well talk about it now. But a couple different theories about it. The one that I kind of really agree with the most is that he was actually seen originally is he's much, much older than what we realize, is that he's probably much, much older than the Norse pantheon and then and that religion that we have put him into. And he ended up folded into that. And Christianity kind of actually folded him into that because we see actual archaeological evidence of his symbols places, and we see archaeological evidence of him on pots and on pottery and in different pieces of art all throughout Northern Europe, but much, much older. And he's painted more as like the deity of like flame and earth and home, and more like an elemental primordial entity like that, which makes a lot of sense for like really what he does in the Norse mythology. And it also makes sense why with his parentage he's still like honored so much and welcomed within the Aesir. I mean, I guess he is welcome. You can't, he is, but he isn't. But he really still is. He's not treated like Satan is, in his pantheon and in his mythology. So I really think that that's part of it, and that's possibly, kind of where his history really originates, but we really don't know. So again, this is still up for debate. This is still up for contention. Like, they're still arguing about this. Historians are still arguing about this. Anthropologists are still arguing about this. This isn't a definitive thing, but we don't really know where his origin is because he really does not show up until the Eddas are written. by Snorri, and Snorri was a Christian. So we have to keep that in mind too when we're thinking about the origins of that. It's like he was a Christian writing these origin stories, and he wrote the Eddas, and that's where we start to see Loki popping up. And he doesn't even pop up till later versions of it. In that. But in Old Norse, the word Loki means knot or tangled, which may imply that he may have been considered responsible for the misfortune that would befall men and befall humans. But there's just not enough evidence to definitively state that. But there is a thought and a theory about that when it comes to that. But his name actually, and the epistemology of his name, and all of the origins of that actually is still deep debate and contention as well to this day as well. They're still debating and arguing where his name even comes from specifically and what it actually specifically means. But one of the most accepted versions, like I said, means knot or tangled, which, like I said, misfortune, which I get to how eventually that could warp into the chaos and it could warp into all of that. We do see that with him as well. Loki has and was represented as the companion of the great gods Odin and Thor, helping them with their plans, but also doing things against them and to make life difficult for them. At times he appears as an enemy of the gods, and at times he appears as a friend. He really just likes to stir shit up. Like, really, he just likes to stir shit up. And he, honestly, I feel like another part of the role that he plays is to remind the gods that, like, they may think that they're all powerful, but like they all exist to keep each other in check. And that, there is somebody around them that could still, wreak havoc and cause chaos. And there are also other entities higher above them, at least in my theory. That's what I believe. For me, deities aren't the highest entity out there. But so that's another thing, like with him, is he really is there to stir shit up and make things hard for them at times, and I just love that about him. He really is the epitome of the divine paradox, because he is and he isn't. He's also male and then he's female. You see him in different stories switching his gender. You also see him being different animals. Again, you see his agenda change. You see which side of alliance he's on change. But he's, again, like I said, like we have all these stories, especially with the death of Balder and him killing Balder. But we see him there in that. We see his role in Ragnarok. We see his role in a couple other places where he's a foe, but then he's also credited like he's the reason why the Aesir gods even have their powerful weapons. Like he's the reasons why they were even gifted them, their powerful weapon and their magical tools. Specifically, Odin's magical spear and Thor's hammer. Like he's literally central to the reason why like they even have those. And again, like he's really meant to represent the spectrum of humanity and the struggle of trying to balance it all. That's really where he sits. To call him a trickster and to call him a trickster god, a god and a god of mischief and a god of chaos is just, to me, he's so much more than that. He's so much bigger than that. And it's a huge mistake to do that on our part, not anybody's part, because there's just so much to him. In my opinion, he's as powerful as Odin, if not more powerful, because if he does all this stuff to them and he's part of this prophecy and there's all this stuff that he's gonna, all this havoc he's gonna wreak even more than he already has, why have him and Thor not already taken care of him? Simply because they can't, and because they're all of the same blood, and that's also kind of how it works. And Loki's just, he's got so much power, and I think he understands just a little bit more than Odin does because of the power that he has. And I don't, personally, that's how I feel about him. Again, you are gonna have to sit with him, work with him, thinking how you feel about it. But he is represented that way. He does come off that way in a couple different places as well. And in some stories, you kind of get that perspective and that feel with him too. Thor also, for some reason, like he needs Loki as a traveling companion. I can't figure out why. I don't know much other people. If one of you know, that'd be fantastic. I haven't come across anybody when I've been reading that fully understands why, but like Thor literally needs him. Like Thor needs Loki in order to travel. Like they need each other in order to do that. And because of that, for me, that indicates that he actually could really be more than just a destroyer and more than just the chaos and the destruction and representing balance and all of that. But he also could be like a creator god as well, like a creation of like the entire universe and man and things like that, especially the fact that he could very much possibly be older. I think he plays a much bigger role in things than what we realize, especially because so much of his text is missing. And if you think about being a destroyer, it makes a lot of sense to also be able to be a creator. God at the same time, because those those energies, they literally are the opposites of each other. They need each other to work. And that's the definition of a divine paradox. And that's really what he's meant to represent. Loki also in some texts is said to be the father of witches. It is said that he actually found a half-cooked woman's heart among the glowing embers of a bonfire, and he decided to literally just eat it. And when he ate it, he became impregnated, and when he gave birth, he gave life to witches. So that's another title and another image that you'll see attached to him as well. Okay, before we get into his family and his children and all of that, let me jump into the chat and see if you guys have any questions. Okay, Loki really does love everyone. He really is like that. I talk about it in like towards the end of my study guide, and I'll talk about it probably towards when we get closer to class too. That's one thing I really love about Loki is when you look at his stories, like he never really actually directly does anything to harm or fuck with humans. It's always the gods. The only way that he really actually messes with us or does us harm or does anything unwanted or negative or what would be viewed as negative towards us is actually indirectly towards us through Ragnarok, and he's really not even coming after us. He's going after the gods. So that's one thing that I love about him too, is he actually he's a very different deity in that sense. Okay, but I have a long day word. I'm sorry to fall. Oh no. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you had to leave. I hope that okay. You will get a notification when it's up. We always put notifications on there. Okay, honey, go ahead.
Um, it kind of sounds like he's the black sheep of the family. Like he's the one that everyone likes, but no one wants to associate with, but and is welcome, but doesn't really come home a lot. Is that right?
Totally. I definitely get that feeling from him. I totally, yes, 1,000%. Yes, honey. Yes. I think that's also a huge reason why I connect to him too. Like, and I think that like most people that I hear from that really, really connect to Loki is they see themselves as outcasts, whether it's from their family or society or anything like that. Like Loki is really a deity that like people on the fringe and that are outcasted and like don't feel accepted. Like they really go to him and flock to him.
Okay. One question just to make sure my facts before I actually ask my actual question.
Yes.
You said that the um the like archaeological remnants and stuff, pottery and that he said
Mhm.
you said that he was shown as like a god of hearth and home type.
Like a flame, like a primordial flame entity near the hearth and home. Almost as if like he gave the knowledge of flame to them in a sense.
Okay.
Kind of like if you
So,
think about it like a Prometheus kind of vibe. Does that help?
okay, yeah. Yeah, it does. Okay, so then my actual question is with him with his name meaning not, images of him being like the flame, the home that keeps the family warm, and and the fact that he is weirdly attached to Thor, which is either his brother or son. And
And I'm so confused about that. I'm still trying to untangle that. Sorry.
you're good. And the fact that it's like he's around everyone so much and messes with them, which obviously means that he must like them enough to mess with them. So couldn't he be called to like help with family issues or
Yes.
like
I have
yeah?
used him with that. Yes, I have used him. I have used him with that. I've heard of other people using him that. Whether it's like, but keep in mind you want to make sure it's not like a super toxic is like family issue where it's one where it's just like unhealthy and it's not going to be redeemable until the other person does some like serious like work and like personal development and growth.
Hmm.
But I have called on him and used him to help like with other more tense like relationships that are tense but can still be worked on and when it comes to like communication within like a family structure for sure.
Okay, cool. Thank
Thank
you.
you for bringing that up because I might have forgotten, so thank you.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm reading the chat, guys. Huh, that is a very vivid dream. I love it. I could see one of two, possibly people that being personally like the female. He does have an incredibly devoted wife to him, Sig. And she literally actually like throughout his punishment, she sits there with a bowl and she like sits there and catches the poison that's dripping on him from the snake. And the only time he actually is said to feel the pain is when she has to leave and go and empty the bowl because the bowl is too full. Like she's actually incredibly loyal to him. I am personally like on my website, Mod Podge Mystic, and like with my business, I'm gonna be doing a whole like thing on her separately. We don't have a ton of information on her, so I don't feel like she can cover like a 2-hour class, which is why I'm gonna do it there. But she just like she's fantastic. He does also have his mistress, the giantess mistress, Agobora. I'm not gonna try to pronounce it because I can't do it. Her name's in the study guide though for sure. And I'll talk about her in just a minute. So he does have her, and she is said to be the mother of like his 3 most famous children, which are Hel and Fenrir and the World Serpent. So that's another possibility of who it could potentially be for the women. Otherwise, when it comes to that too, I don't ever like fully like how's the way that I want to word this? I don't always do interpretations of what deity could be coming to me based off looks, because that could be so skewed based off of art that I've seen, that could be so skewed based off of society, that could be so skewed based off of so many different things, of like how they view, of like how they're gonna represent and like show themselves to you. So like I don't always, I try not to always go off of that. But if like the energy isn't matching the energy, then I would definitely like, yeah, swing more that way. Yeah, he has 3 children with her, so that's definitely a huge possibility. Those 2 are definitely the big ones. That mistress is his, yeah, she's pretty important. Could also be his mother too. That's a possibility too. See, Sig's pretty sweet. So yeah, I would lean probably more towards the giantess. Um, Hel and Fenrir and the World Serpent's mother. I wish Agroboda, I believe is how you pronounce it. Angrboda. I'm not, like I said, I wish my tongue would listen on that. I can do Spanish pretty well, or I used to be able to, but now I just, yeah. Okay, let's jump back into the study guide, guys. So his family and his children. So he is considered to be the son of Giant, which the son of Ferbote, or which is an unspecified like giant. He's known to be like a cruel striker, and then his mother is usually called La Fée, and she's sometimes referred to as No. When I'm going through the research for his mother, it's actually kind of like cryptic and a little bit unsure of like who exactly she is. Some say that she's another giantess and a giantess. Other references don't. Other references her like more as like the actual primordial energy of the earth itself. I've seen some way of like referencing his mother like more as her like that. That's why you get that like leaf, the lefay, like the leaf part of it, like the fact that she's actually like the embodiment of earth. And that's where he's born from. But most commonly accepted is the fact that like she's just another giantess. She's just a giantess, another giant. Which again makes like his parentage and exactly who he is so confusing, which I think is why again, like he's really feared because he's so like he's got these shape-shifting abilities. He's pretty ambiguous. He goes between like genders and species. We don't really know like who his parents actually are and like where he came from. And like Odin references him as his actual blood brother. So like is Odin's parents parented? So like it's just a lot that like is around him. And I think that's also kind of why he gets treated the way he does too. Is like there's just so much mystery around him. And like he makes so much unravel. Loki's brothers are considered to be actually all Helblindi and Blister, also Jotar, and then Odin also references him as his half brother as well. He has many children. His three most famous ones he has with the giantess Angrboda. And the Assyr gods like fear them so much, like so much that like almost immediately after they are born, they actually all get separated and placed in confinement. If you want to know more details about story specifically, I do break that down actually in pretty detail in my Hell class. So if you go watch that recording, I do break that down because it's a little bit more central to like her, and like who she is. But the first of these children is the giantess Hel. She is considered the deity of the underworld in Norse mythology. She's considered the underworld of Helheim, where all souls that did not fall bravely in battle find themselves after death. And again, if you want to learn more about her, I already did teach a class on her. We do have a study guide on her I'm pretty positive I already put this one on the website. I'm pretty sure I'm caught up through her. And then her recordings on YouTube as well. The next child that he had with the giantess is, I'm just going to spell it. It's the giant serpent, but it's Jormungand, which he is actually the mighty serpent, which the Aesir threw him into the sea surrounding Midgard and the world of men. And he literally was thrown in and he grew to actually such a great size that he could surround the entire world. So that's actually one of Loki's children, the world serpent is. And the third son that he had with her, the third child, is their son, the mighty wolf, Fenrir. And he is actually chained up in Asgard using a magical ribbon that was made by the dwarves. And it is actually said that Ragnarok is going to start when he breaks free, and he is actually, Fenrir is actually said to be the one specifically that kills Odin himself, and Thor. And then he actually ends up slaying somebody else in battle as well, but he is actually pretty pivotal to the battle Fenrir is. And she's actually, I would say, the most feared out of all of them, outside of me. Lady Hell is so powerful, by the way, guys. If you've not worked with her, you don't know anything about her and like how much power she has, like, who? Please go watch that video because she's fantastic. But again, like those are three of the children that he has, and she is one of them. Next, Loki also had his wife Sig. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but it's spelled Sigyn. She is incredibly loyal. Like these two, even though Loki like is unfaithful to her with the giantess, and he ends up shapeshifting into a horse and having sex with a stallion and giving birth to another horse, and he does wander and things like that a little bit more than I would like. Like these two, their like relationship and love story is very intriguing. I really like them a lot. Like I like Hades and Persephone. Like it's very fascinating. But she's incredibly loyal to him. But we don't know much about her really outside of that. But they do have a son together, Narfi, and Narfi actually ends up with a pretty tragic ending, and a grisly fate when it comes to within mythology. So we're gonna talk about it a little bit, but Loki's is responsible for Baldur's death, which is another god. The arguably the most favored one above Thor, and the most beautiful, everybody loved him. But as part of the punishment for Loki's role in his death, they actually have Narfi killed. One of Odin's wolf's Vali, one of Odin's son Vali literally turns into a wolf. In his feral state, he actually like attacks him and tears Loki's son Nari into pieces. And it's actually said that Narfi's entrails are what is used to actually bind Loki in his punishment for Baldur. So like it's actually like a really messed up, really gruesome ending, and it's a really, really like very symbolic form of retribution punishment in my mind. But they do have that one son together. So that is, I wanted to touch on that as well. Most people actually don't know about him. They don't even really know that part of the story even. Loki also, most people don't know this as well. Odin's 8-legged steed Sleipnir, did you know Loki was its mother? Yeah, Loki's the mother of Sleipnir. So this is a result of Loki's shape-shifting abilities. So according to an Old Norse story, Near the beginning of time, there was actually an unnamed builder, and they arrived and offered to build the fortifications around Asgard in exchange for the goddess Freya, the sun, and the moon. So this builder was like, cool, I'll come, I'll build what we now know as Asgard. But you're gonna give me Freya, and you're gonna give me the sun, and you're gonna give me the moon. Yeah, to me, it's a pretty steep deal. Like, that's a pretty heavy deal. Like, that's pretty steep. But the gods agreed to it. Like, they agreed to it, but only if he completed the work within 1 season, and he had the help of no man. So the man agreed. But he agreed with the condition that he could have the help of his stallion. And Loki convinced the gods that this was actually a good deal and it was fair and that they should let him have the stallion. But the stallion actually helped this builder complete his work really quickly, like way more quickly than they thought was capable. And with only 3 days left before the deadline, it actually looked like he was going to be able to finish it in time. And they were actually going to have to pay up. And the gods were like, well, we don't want to give him Freya. We don't want to give him the moon. We don't want to give him the sun. And then they started blaming Loki because they're like, well, you convinced us this was a good deal. So we're in this really bad situation because this was your idea. You convinced it was a good idea. We did it, blah, 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 blah. So you need to figure out a way how to get us out of this. So what does Loki do? I love this, honestly, guys. I really love it. I really, really do. Loki turns himself into the most beautiful, stunning mare he could possibly turn himself into so that he could distract that stallion. So that stallion would delay his work and so the builder would not be able to finish his work in time. The builder doesn't finish his work in time. All that distraction results in Loki actually being pregnant. And sometime later, then Loki bursts Sleipnir, the 8-legged horse, who then actually is gifted to Odin and becomes Odin's favorite mount. So I think it's just super, super interesting. That says a lot about the Norse deities. And just Loki, that's how he chooses. They're like, you need to solve this problem. Okay, cool. I'm gonna turn the horse into a horse to go distract this other horse. It's just, I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, I went through quite a bit there, so I'll jump back in here quick and then we'll go into some more myths, talk about where he shows up more. The big one is Boulder, the death of Boulder that we'll go over, and then I'll give you the list of other stories that he shows up in, little synopsis of them, because I always want you guys to go and do your own research as well, because that's how you get closer to a DD as well. But I typically go through a couple of them pretty detailed. So one of them is the one we just did, and then we'll go over a couple more next. So let me jump into the chat here quick. There we go. Yes, honey, thank you for putting those in the chat because you are correct. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Did anybody know that Loki was actually the father of, the mother of Sleipnir? Did anybody else know that before I said that? By the way? Honey, you raising your hand because you did, or you're raising your hand that you have a question or a comment?
Originally question, but no, I didn't know that about Sleipnir.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I know. Isn't it?
Actually that leads me to one of my questions. So if he gets pregnant in the horse form, does it say anything about if he had to stay in the horse form to carry the horse until it was birthed, or what? Or how did that even happen?
I don't think it says specifically. If it does, I am gonna have to go back and reread that. It's in the Eddas, so I will go reread that and double check that. But I don't think it talks about that. But I could be wrong. So, oh yeah, and Ronnie said he read it. Yeah, I'm gonna double check that for you after class, honey. I'm not sure, but I would assume he would have to stay in horse form.
Yeah.
I would assume. I would assume that would be one of the universal consequences of being able to shapeshift into other species.
Or could turn into like a centaur. I mean, still a female centaur.
That's
At least that would
possible.
keep the womb part, but be able to talk.
That's possible. Thank you for being here, Beth. Sorry you have to go. I know I rescheduled this one. I usually in the afternoons people can be here longer, so I apologize, guys. But yeah, I could see that happening, honey. Um, I'm really trying to remember if it's specifically written or not. I'm gonna double check after this because it's in the edits. So
Then one more question. Okay, if you can shapeshift into different genders and to women or species or that, is Loki's original form, is that for sure a man, or is that just the one that he prefers to take? Or is
that's
he
the
more
assumption.
androgynous like Dionysius?
Yeah,
Or
I equate him more to what you just said, being more like androgynous, like to Dionysus, from the Greek pantheon that you're bringing up there. And like I equate him more like that, to where he's a little bit more like that. He's very fluid. And I think we also have to look at the fact that when he pops up, he is popping up in the Eddas, which is written by a Christian author. So if somebody is a little bit, is gender fluid, they're very comfortable and they're representing that way, they're probably going to choose for their comfortability to write them in more as a male energy, if that makes sense.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Does that help and answer your question?
yeah, it does. Yeah, it does because like even in TV shows, you more see like feminine men versus masculine women. It just seems to be
Correct.
the thing that more people are comfortable with.
Correct. And
But
by the way,
all
if you see more masculine women, they're usually in prison.
true, very unfair. True.
Yep. Yep.
Also since he is more androgynous and able to shapeshift like that, could he also be called to work with people who are more androgynous, non-binary, who do drag,
Oh yeah.
different stuff like that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I see him as a huge deity like within that community. I see him popping up there a lot. I see him done with that work a lot. I use him like I touched on earlier, like I used him with my own sexual identities. Because I am a bisexual
Yeah.
woman married to a straight man. If you knew and you didn't know that, it's like that is in it. It's not this. It's a different level, but like yes, I have seen him used in all over in the LGBTQ plus community, all with so many with helping with that. There's so many ways helping with that. And I see him represented there a lot too.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, let's jump back in. Okay. So let's talk about the myths and legends he shows up in. Remember again, we don't know exactly what his true origins are prior to showing up in the Eddas. There are thoughts and theories, though, amongst researchers and historians and archaeologists, which we talked about earlier. Like he may originally be considered an elemental deity of the hearth. But again, we just don't have the written documentation. Loki's entry into Norse mythology actually came later than most as well, and his origins, like I said, is really hard for us to figure it out. Then the oldest poetic works, such as in the Grimsmal, which is Grimnismal, which had fragments going back to the 8th century. Loki was actually like not there. He was absent. He really wasn't part of it. He really wasn't in any of like the non-Norse sources until we have in any of the pre-Christian Germanic religion. But then he shows up again. But then he starts showing up once Christianity starts coming in, and the Roman Catholic Church starts coming in, and then we have Snorri, and Snorri writes him into the Eddas. And again, remember, Snorri is a Christian himself. The Eddas were written by a Christian author, which is where most of our Norse mythology comes from, which is, I hate it and it's sad. But it that's the reality of it. And then again, nowadays he's more seen as that like culture and version of Satan. The most popular myth that people will know about him, the most popular one where people talk about him and that he'll get brought up in, is for one Ragnarok and his role in Ragnarok, which actually we don't know much about because we don't have the full story of Ragnarok and we don't know the whole prophecy, which frustrates me so much. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the other one is actually the betrayal of Balder, and the binding of Loki. This is found in the Eddas. And it is the critical turning point actually for Loki and his relationship with the gods. This is where you get that moment of like falling from grace kind of moment. This is where you get like the splinter from him and the Aesir gods. This is where you get like that, haha, we can paint you as the evil, the ultimate evil, the destruction. Like this is that moment, this is that point, it's this story. So in the story of Balder, Balder is one of Odin's son. He's the half brother of Thor. He actually was considered really to be more popular than Thor, more beloved than Thor. He was the most beautiful. He just like everybody loved him. He was brilliant and bright, and he was just like the light of the room and just the favorite deity of everybody's. And so it really revolves around him. So it all began when Balder was actually troubled by his dreams of his own death, and dreams that his mother, who was also having as well. And his mother is Frigg. And Odin actually summoned the Volva from the dead, which are a whole creature, the whole other thing. The Volva confirmed Odin's fears and told him that Balder would indeed die. But they wouldn't reveal to Odin how. They wouldn't reveal how his death would occur. They wouldn't reveal to him what was happened. So absolutely desperate to protect her son from all harm, Frigg actually went around and secured an oath from every single living thing in the universe, promising that they would never hurt Balder, that they would only ever assist him, they would never hurt him, they would never help anything or anybody else hurt him, and like all of that. So like this basically made Balder invincible. Like it pretty much made him invincible. Some of the gods were okay with it, and they would be amused by it, and they would throw weapons at him for pleasure, be like, ha ha ha, like, can't die, like, funny, 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 like, type thing. All of this actually made Loki pretty jealous. That's how they tell the story. I don't know, to me, it doesn't come off that way. To me, it doesn't come off as jealous. To me, it comes off as this is a massive imbalance in the multiverse, in the universe. This is not okay. This is not acceptable, and I'm going to find a way to right it. Coming from the place of a Grey Witch and a practitioner who lives and thrives in duality and the liminal space and things like that, like I read this, and to me, like my body and my soul and my being, my essence just hurt at the amount of imbalance like that would cause for Balder to be able to have protection from every single being in the universe. Like that just like screams to me like how much havoc that's gonna wreak, and like how it's just like not okay in the universe to be doing something like that. And it's just like, to me, that's what I get for why like Loki does what he does. By the way, I'm putting that in there right now. Like that's my disclaimer. That's how I feel about it. But it's typically written everywhere and throughout all the stories that he was jealous and it made him jealous and that he was jealous of Balder. So because Loki was jealous and Loki was Loki and he always wanted to cause trouble and make things, wreak havoc, that he actually used his shape-shifting abilities to trick Frigg into telling him that she actually may have forgotten to secure the oath from the very humble mistletoe plant, because the mistletoe is so humble and sweet, and there's no way it would possibly ever harm Balder. And it just slipped her mind, and she may have forgotten it. So Loki learned this information, and it's said in every single version that he immediately darts to go to that mistletoe. He gets the mistletoe, and he actually tricks Balder's blind brother Hode into throwing it at Balder as part of the gods like regular like haha games, like trickery, like playing pricks that haha thing. And that in doing so, it immediately strikes Balder because the mistletoe is attached to it, and he's dead. Which surprises all the gods, and they're all weeping, they're all super, 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 super upset. And then after Balder's death, Odin actually goes and like it's this whole thing where he besieges to Hel, which again I go into detail with this more story in her video, which is Loki's daughter and the keeper of the underworld. to allow Balder to return to Asgard. Explaining to her that, trying to explain to her the world should not be robbed of him, and that, it shouldn't, like, he's the most beloved, why, like, you should let him go. And Hela actually agrees. He can return, but only on the condition that every single living thing in the universe actually weeps for him. Every single thing in the universe actually wants him back. And they agree to this because they're like, well, it's Balder. There's no way. And like the mistletoe was tricked by Loki and didn't mean to do this. There's just no way that this isn't going to happen. So they go about their task. They go and do it, and they get to this point where they need to get one more giantess to agree, and she doesn't weep for Balder, and because she doesn't, he doesn't return. And it's actually said in a couple different stories and different versions that Loki is actually the giantess, and that's why she doesn't agree, because Loki wants to make sure that his plan comes to fruition fully, and that they can't find a way around it because of hell. Because he's not going to force his daughter to do things; she's got her own choices to make. And then because of his part in this tragedy, and as punishment, for Balder's death, Loki actually eventually is expelled from Asgard by all of the Aesir gods. They actually chain him to two rocks, and they hang a poisonous snake above his head to drip painful poison onto his face. While this is happening, like we talked about before, his wife Sig actually tries to protect Loki from his pain. She actually sits there with a bowl and she catches the poison, and she literally only leaves when she needs to empty the bowl because it's too full. And it's said that that's the only time that Loki is actually inflicted with pain. And when that happens, that is when we have earthquakes and tsunamis, and that's when we have disasters because the pain is so great, he shudders and quakes the entire earth. It is said that when the time comes for Ragnarok itself, it is prophesied that Loki will be able to slip completely out of his chains, and he will join the movement against the Aesir gods with the giants and with his children, and that during the battle he will actually be able to slay quite a few of the gods, and he will be a key holder when it comes to battle. During Ragnarok, the secrets events that literally what it is leading to the death and the rebirth of the world. He plays a critical role in that because of his releasing of bondage, and he's a trickster. It's said as well that like his daughter Hel, she is the key to the doors opening, and like all of the souls will be joining the giants. It doesn't say she does anything besides that. And that Fenrir is actually the one who kills quite a few deities as well, but he's the killer of Odin. He's specifically named as the killer of Odin. So that is where we see Loki the most in this, and that's the myth of Balder. I am going to jump in the chat, see if you guys have any questions and anything else that you want to say about that. That's a whole other thing. That's a whole thing. It's an entity in Norse mythology that they're oracles in a sense. The closest, yeah, the closest that I can give you is like the three fates and the oracles from like Greek mythology kind of tied into one. I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer it because like I don't want to go down into a whole like Norse mythology like rabbit hole right now. But like, yeah, it's really like they're really considered to be like the seers and the oracles and of like Norse mythology and North times. Like it really translates like to the word like seeress, like Seeress. They're like very, very highly respected practitioners of magic. A lot of times they were seen as like elderly women. But there were times where it was also different as well. Sometimes they're literally just kind of like seen as a definition of a witch. Yeah. Does that answer your question enough for now, honey?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like there's a Norse version of the Fates, like I think they're called the Nodes or the Nods, something like that.
Yeah,
They're just like them combined.
kind of. Yeah. I kind of like
Cool.
to equate them a little bit more to the oracles of like Delphi, a little bit more too, though.
Okay.
Kind of that.
What is that?
From Greek mythology.
Mhm.
You know the oracles that would literally sit in the temple of Apollo and like prophesize
No.
from prophets? Ooh, okay. We're gonna have to. Well, I'll have to do a little tidbit on that then too. I'm gonna do the whole Greek pantheon too in my class. I wanted to start Shintoism first, so I'll make sure that I touch on this.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Maybe I'll have to cave and do a class on Apollo. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean for that reaction to come out. Because all deities serve their purpose. They have reasons to work with them. Just Apollo and Artemis, they have such a toxic relationship, and I just don't like working with Apollo. But okay, so let's jump back in. Where'd my study guide go? Okay, there it is. Okay, other places where Loki is mentioned in myths and stories. You have all of the Eddas, the poetic Edda. Loki is referenced in quite a few different poems. I'm actually just gonna pop it into the chat here now so you guys can see it, but it is in the study guide too. So here. Those are all the poems in the Eddas where he'll pop up. The Vospa, the Loxina, and Baldur's Drama. There's quite a few other ones. You also have Prod Edda's Glofungin, which is Gylfaginning, which actually is a little bit different versions of this. It tells a little bit different versions of it. This is where you're gonna find myths including Loki's role in the birth of the horse Sleipnir, Loki's contest with Logi, and fire personified. There are also 4 other poems where he pops up as well. In the study guide where I have it written out, there's a Norwegian ruin poem, and then small poem, Fjolsvinsmal poem, and then we also have the Hyvenfold poem. So he actually does pop up quite a few places, guys. Like you've got quite a few different texts you can look at to get different stories from him, to learn about his personality and read it and figure out how it's coming off to you. That's a huge reason in all my classes. I know I have new students here. I did already teach a class on like deity basics. I've got a study guide on the website that you can look at. I don't know if that one's posted on YouTube. It might be. If it isn't, hopefully that one will be up soon. But always study and read about them and figure out how they come off to you in your perspective. They're gonna show to you how they need to for you to learn from them, how for you to guide them. Also, your life, your experience, your perspective. It's going to change how that deity is going to feel to you and how their myths are going to feel to you and things like that. For example, because I have new students in here tonight, I'm just gonna sidetrack to this. A lot of people look at Demeter as an incredibly loving, caring mother who just like loves Persephone so much and she just wants her back and like she just loves her daughter and she's just very like loving, kind, caring, compassionate, like mother, earthly mother. That's not how I view Demeter. That's not how Demeter comes off to me. That is not how I see her. I see her as a very controlling, very narcissistic, very like Persephone wanted to get the F away from Demeter. Like I saw it as like her sitting here and punishing all of Earth to go and find her daughter who literally like wanted to leave from her. Like I just like I see her as in a very different light. So make sure that you read, you research, and you figure out how this feels to you. So that's also why I have those in the study guide for you to go take a peek at. So key stories where you'll see him. I already talked about it and summarize it for you. You'll see him again, like I said, the fortification of Asgard and the birth of Sleipnir. So you'll see that. You'll see him in the abduction of Idun. Loki's cunning is on full display here. In Idun's abduction, he actually initially tricks Idun into leaving Asgard, leading her to be captured by a giant. And without her rejuvenating apples, the gods begin to age super rapidly. Realizing the gravity of his actions, though, Loki actually transforms into a falcon to be able to rescue her and return her back to Asgard, restoring the youth and vitality to the gods. There's a whole mythology with her, and she's fascinating, by the way. You also see him in the Otter's Ransom. It's actually where Loki just like randomly just like killed an otter. Literally to only discover that it was a transformed dwarf. And then because he made that mistake, he actually decides to embark on a quest to retrieve some cursed gold as compensation. And then the tale showcases Loki's ability to actually be able to rectify his misdeeds when he's done something wrong on a mischief. So you see a different side of him in that story. You have Sif's golden hair, which is a pretty popular one that he's a part of. He literally just decides to randomly go and cut off Sif's hair, which she's really known for. There's super, super beautiful hair that she's known for. And when he does this, like Thor gets pissed. Thor gets really mad. And then in order to make amends, he actually commissions for the dwarves to craft golden hair that was even more beautiful than what Sif's original hair was. And so he actually ends up like giving her something better that she has before. And because of that relationship, he ends up being able to gift further gifts to the gods, like Thor's hammer and Odin's spear. You also have another story with him, which is titled The Deceptive Wedding. And in it, Thor's hammer is actually stolen by a giant who actually then demands Freya as his bride in order for Thor to get Mjolnir back. Loki devises a plan and that Thor will actually disguise himself as Freya, and Loki will then be disguised as his bridesmaid. And the duo will actually travel into the giant's hall, Thrymm's hall, and get her and retrieve her and bring her back. And when Thrymm actually brings out Mjolnir to be able to bless the bride, Thor seizes it and takes it and gets it back. And it shows Loki's really cunning and his ability to help the gods when they need him, and his resourcefulness, and the fact that like they don't just hate him because they need his help all the time, and they willingly use it and they go to it and they ask him for it. Another story that he'll pop up in that's pretty popular is also in Lokosina, where Loki actually crashes a feast of the gods, and he like hurls insults and reveals a lot of uncomfortable truths and secrets, and he talks about everything that the gods really like want to keep hidden in the shadows, all because he's insulted that they didn't invite him. And it just really talks about like showcases like how he can be a hothead and how he really just likes to like bug shit up, especially like if you're disrespectful to him. So that is a brief summary of a lot of the common myths and stories where you'll see him in, but please just go take a look and read him if he's calling to you and speaking to you and you want to learn more. Because I don't, like I said, I don't want to summarize every single one for you, because part of getting close to a deity is learning about them. And it's so much fun to study and go down rabbit holes. I wish you could see how many I'm on, because I love it. So next, let's get into the nitty gritty parts of worship here. We have about 30 minutes left, so we should be able to get through this here. When it comes to worshiping him, first let's talk about correspondences. If you don't know what a correspondence is, because I do have new students here, correspondence is an item or a symbol that's meant to connect you to a specific energy through its representation. It's also seen as a way to respect, honor, or venerate that energy as well, whether it be like a zodiac energy of the moons and an archetype energy, or like you're going to use it here for a deity. That's what a correspondence is, and that's what it's meant to do. It can be like something that's with you on an altar, in a spell, like anything, that's what it is. So colors associated to Loki are going to be black, yellow, green, gold, red, orange, and violet. Days are going to be Friday the 13th. Anytime the 13th of the month pops up, because 13 is a really pivotal number for him. He's really, really pivotal during the autumn equinox, Samhain, and Yule. Yule specifically for his connection to Sleipnir, and then the autumn equinox and Samhain because of how liminal those times are, and because he's also popped up in those festivals as well. Animals, you have the snake and the falcon, the spider, the horse, because there's stories of him turning into all of those. You also have the fly, the flea, the salmon, the vulture, the wolf, and the fox. Crystals and stones that can be used for him. Obsidian and black tourmaline are my two favorites, along with carnelian and bloodstone. You can also use black onyx, garnet, citrine, and serpentine. Ooh, serpentine's great too. I love using serpentine with him. Serpentine's just a little bit harder to get a hold of. But you can. I love using serpentine with him as well. Other deities that will work well with him, if you want to use other deities with him, are going to be Pan, Cronus, Dionysus, Bacchus, Hermes, Issue, Prometheus. Prometheus and Loki, I have great, like, they have great connections with those two. I really like those two together. Herbs that you can use are going to be mistletoe for obvious reasons. I love using that too because it just makes me laugh. Mint, patchouli, tobacco, cinnamon, clove, holly, cedar, juniper, and elder. I also like using Nagachampa with him as well. So magical domains and like energies that he harnesses and themes and spells and types of workings that you can do with him that he can help enhance are going to be chaos, destruction, creation, and creativity, fire, shape-shifting and transformation, blacksmithing, especially when that's really because of the gifts and the treasures that he gives the Aesir gods. Cooking, discovery, trickery, and any type of trickster stuff. Protection, paradox. Paradoxal work is really fun. Anything that people consider taboo, anything that's considered fluid or has to do with your gender, shadow work, catalyst, cunning, seduction, because he's obviously good at that, except even as a horse, he's good at seduction. So he's really good with that. I see him in sex magic often. I know I have a lot of new students here. Sex magic is one of my like top 5 specialties I have. I love sex magic. I love working with sex magic. I love talking about sex magic. If sacred prostitution was a thing, oh my God, I might not be married, to be perfectly honest. I love sex magic, and he's great with that. And I've used him, and I know a lot of people that have as well. He's great for healing as well, and actually just as an amplifier, any type of astral work, because he's great in that liminal space and breaching between worlds and pantheons, and self-empowerment. He's really, really great for self-empowerment in the essence of like your identity and really honing in on what your identity is, who you are, how to stand in it, and how to completely unbox it and like not be conventional about it and like understand that like you're not ever going to be one niche, one box, one aspect, one thing. You can be as fluid as you want in all areas of your life. That's the brilliance of existing. Symbols that as well that'll work with him are the infinity snake, obviously because of the world snake, and that is his child. The number 8 as well, because of the infinity, the number 13. Sirius, the Sirius star, the chaos star. There's also runes that spell out his name for symbols that you can use. He also has a couple sigils that you can use as well. There is a practice now that's a modern day worship of for Loki called the Lokian practice. There also are cults of Loki that exist. There is one in my area, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But there are cults of Loki that exist. But then there is the Lokian practice, which is modern day Loki worship. And a Lokian is somebody who works with, worships, and or venerates the Norse god. Loki typically is seen as the main deity, and the term Lokian has 2 uses, usually what I see and what I come across in studying. The first describes a patronage to Loki, so like similar to like saying that like a Loki's man or an Osman's, while the second implied like the subculture identity, which is really distinct to just like being a heathen and like practicing in the Norse religion and Norse mythology and like trying to go back to the old ways, but it's really tied more to like a neo-paganism identity. So for this reason, not everyone who works with Loki may identify with this term or may identify as a heathen, may even like they may not even practice Norse paganism at all. For example, like I work with Loki, but I would not consider myself a Norse pagan. Like I very much consider myself a mystic. I don't so like I don't like you don't have to identify that way to work with him. You don't have to be considered a heathen, like any of that. Um, the word Lokian actually also originated like in North America. Like it didn't come from Europe or the Germanic area or from any Germanic tribe or any of that. It actually wasn't even a thing until the 1990s. And it really became a thing because they were excluded from a lot of people who believed in Loki and worshipped Loki were really, really like excluded from many pagan places and other heathen places. So they started to create their own separate community, their own separate culture. And that's when we get all of this. So because of this, like it actually at times can be a kind of a separate identity as well. What does Loki in practice look like? The only needed component is actually just to simply practice with Loki. Like you just need to want to work with Loki. Generally though, like it can be a little bit more structured. It's a little bit more like neo-paganism, such as, making sure that like deity work is super central, offerings, holiday observations, making like having altars, like it's pretty basic deity work when it comes to it. But not all practitioners are going to look that way, and not all practitioners are going to work with him this way. But they also, when it comes to the Lokian practice, it's also developing this very spiritual practice, and it fosters a very deep relationship with Loki that really puts him in a very central center in your life and a very central center in your practice. I personally, this is not my path. This is not how I practice. That's also why I'm just touching on it. I'm not really going much more into detail on it. If you want to learn more though, like there's lots of resources out there on it. Other ways to work with Loki, if that's not the path that you want to go. First, read, research, and study. Like I teach in every single class, like I write in everything that I write, in every blog post, in every study guide, in every single thing that I do, you want to read, research, and study that deity. That is one of the number one ways that you can connect to a deity, how you can know how to work with a deity, all of that. Earlier, I gave a list of the key myths and stories that you can find him in. That's a great place to start. You can find him in other books, like Loki the Trickster and Transformer by Dugolf Lupston. You can also find lots of podcasts and YouTube videos. You can find classes just like the one I'm teaching now by other people too, that you can watch if you don't want to read and you want to listen and do things like that. And there's so many ways to study and learn about him. So that is one way to work with him. The next is creating an altar for him. If you're new to deity work, one of the main ways that you can connect to the deity is through having an altar for them. I talked about this in my basic deities class. I also did an entire class on how to do an altar, the many different aspects of altars, the many different ways that you can do an altar and all of that. If you missed that and you want more information about that, that study guide's on the website as well. I think that class might be posted. If not, hopefully that'll be up soon. So if you don't have an altar, you can create one. If you do, you can add him to it. Add any correspondence listed that we talked about. Also, if you want to add offerings to him, he enjoys alcohol and candy and hot peppers and spicy foods and meats and toys and things like that. One tip that I have for him is I usually have better success if he's in my kitchen or near my sacred space. I have wonky success when he's in my bedroom for some reason. Not sure why. I'm still trying to pinpoint exactly why that's happening there. But it gets just a little chaotic when he's in there, but it does pretty good when he's in the kitchen. I think that's because of the element of fire connection. Also, I do not recommend putting him together with other deities or other pantheons. The only deities I would put him with would be Odin, Thor, Sig, or Hel. Things just tend to get really chaotic and really messy in my life and my workings when I mix him with other people. Other pantheons don't quite know, it seems like, how to handle his energy, and like his intentions. So it gets to be a little chaotic and messy. Next, fire. So in some of the myths, it's said that Loki was born when a lightning bolt struck a birch tree. So he's known as being a very hot and tempered deity. He's known as being very mischievous, and he has the ability to manifest fire. So what better way to honor him than to get to know how to work with fire? There's lots of ways to use that, whether that's just kitchen work, candle magic. You can create a potpourri and do a simmer pot. My favorite, fire scrying. I love fire scrying. You can use fire scrying. You can add candles for to deepen your trances during meditations. Just remember, always be safe. Just always be safe. Please don't burn your house down. It's not fun. I've gone through it twice. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Be safe. Like, just be safe. Next, working with him with shadow work. Being a gray witch and a mystic, I thrive in that liminal space, like I've talked about quite a few times. which makes practice of shadow work one of my favorite things to do. I'm an incredibly unique guide when doing this too because of my aspect and my understanding of duality and the understanding of your darkness. Like, I work with it in a way not to work through it to get to your light, but to truly become a partner with it. And Loki's really, really good at doing that. He really, really harnesses an embodiment. It embodies the balance of duality and of that liminal space and of those shadows and what they can do for you. And he's really, 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 really great guide for it. He's honestly probably my favorite male deity to do for that reason. When I need to defer not only my divine masculine, but to fully understand that balance between the both and how to be fluid with moving in and out of that energy. And with him being a shapeshifter, like he really, really helps with that and the movement and being able to understand that. Like I talked about earlier too, with inner child work, he's really fabulous for that. Because he really yanks that inner child out of the shadows. Whether they like to hide there and that's where they like to be, whether it's somewhere that, whether you pushed them in there and they kind of disappeared into there, like he pulls them out. And for some people, that can be really chaotic and overwhelming and hard at first. It's like I kind of understand why he can get the rep that he can get because of that. And especially if you're not quite ready for it, like it's really like it can be overwhelming and chaotic at first when you start doing the inner child work. But and he's very abrupt with it because he knows it needs to get done and he knows it's gonna cause balance and he knows it's right and he's very like this go. So he can be like that with it. But just remember, like every time that happens, like you have to have that death for that rebirth. You have to have that destruction for the creation. And that's really what he's doing it for. He's not doing it in a harmful or malicious intent. He's doing it because he truly knows that's how the universe and the multiverse functions. But he really does just pull up your shadows. He just does. If you want to learn more about how to do shadow work, I taught a class already on this already. Super, super in-depth class on this. I have a study guide on the website about this. That class is already posted. I have it linked in the study guide, so you can just go right to it. I also personally, like in my own business, Mod Podge Mystic, I do private one-on-one guided sessions that you can do with them. I also hold workshops with shadow work, and I have ebooks that you can buy too. So there's a lot that you can do with shadow work, and he's great to work with that. So just make sure, like with shadow work, that you're ready for it because like I said, he really, really pull you out, especially with that inner child work. Number 13 is one of Loki's symbols, so why not use this as a way to connect with him? You consider implementing 13 in your rituals, your offerings, your magic workings, your daily life. If you are one of those people that likes to drink coffee and you use your coffee to set your intentions every morning by stirring them in, why not do it 13 times? If you're going to do sigils and runes, why not adapt them to make sure you have 13 lines or 13 structures to it? If you're doing candle magic, try using 13. If you're doing prayers, saying his name 13 times. There's so many different ways that you can do it. That's just simple. Playing prank on others. Have some good old harmless pranks and fun. Some people can do it, some people can't. It's not something I can do. I have OCD and like to me like pranks are mess and I like my brain just does not like it. But if it's something that you're comfortable doing, go for it. Like, and it can also like bring out that really playful childlike side of Loki that you can get out of him and see. Loki can be used simply just to enhance your magic as well. He's a very gifted and powerful magic practitioner. His skills in shapeshifting are evidence of that alone. So you can call him in your magical workings, simply to help transform your magic and help amplify your magic and your understanding of it as well. With the fact that he can transform in and out of everywhere and be so comfortable at liminal space and transform into whatever he wants, he's got such an open variety of forms. His understanding of magic is so vast, and he opens up this very deep knowledge for you to be able to understand. And it's just cool. It's just fascinating. I love it when he's like pumping through and amplifying some of my workings with me. Exploring the paradox and exploring what a paradox is and how that feels and how you can be a part of that divine paradox in your life is a great way to connect and work with him as well. What is a paradox if you don't know what that is? A paradox is defined as a seemingly absurd or self-contradictory statement or proposition that when investigated or explained may prove to be well-founded or true. That's the actual definition of paradox, by the way. Like I literally took the literal one. Loki embodies the divine paradox. So really what that's saying is that like something is really supposed to be completely absurd. There's no way this can possibly be true, but it is. Like it is. Like it is true. Like it's just this paradox of like it's just like yeah, it's like mind-blowing. That's the best way they can talk about a paradox. Like it's really kind of the effect that it has. And he really just is it. Like he's literally a living, walking set of contradictions and paradox and everything that he does, like he shouldn't be able to do and just doesn't make sense. And like how there's so much it just doesn't make sense about his story and who he is, but we just accept it and it's just the way it is. And he really is this walking paradox. So like working with this and understanding this and understanding how you can be so fluid and all over the place and really harnessing your true essence and exploring your personal paradox, like it helps unlock your identity. And he's really great for that. Using Loki to unbox yourself. So as a shapeshifter, again, who changes his aspect often, he really doesn't fit inside this box. He doesn't appear like even like his outward appearance always isn't like he chooses what he's gonna project. So you can use his energy to do the same for you. He's like I said, really pivotal for me in this aspect of really like shattering that box, shattering that expectation, shattering the fact that like my outward appearance may look like this, but my inward, but like this is really truly what my soul is because I have the ability to shape and morph and switch into what I want. And like it really helped me like break through some assumptions that I had going on, some insecurities I had going on with my identity, and he's lovely with that. In the study guide, I do have a prayer in there that I personally wrote and used for him. I like using this one for him a lot, so you can take it and use it, modify it if you would like. To wrap it up, when it comes to Loki, he just really is the dual, like he really is like the embodiment of duality, the embodiment of the divine paradox, the embodiment of the nature of the trickster and what that really does for us, the embodiment of making sure that we keep that we keep balance within the universe and the multiverse. I mean, especially when it comes to like his role with like Balder, to me, like that wasn't a villainous act. Like it really wasn't. He was restoring the ultimate balance in the multiverse. Like I don't like even if you're a god or not, like you shouldn't have ultimate protection to where there's absolutely nothing in the universe that will ever harm you. Like it shouldn't be a thing. So he really, really teaches us that, like in order to keep the balance in the multiverse, the universe, and in order to make sure that the good of the many and the health of the many is kept, like sometimes like the few have to be sacrificed, and that's how it works. And keeping that balance within those energies. And Loki really does help us understand that. Like I said, I don't like using this view of good or evil. I hate it. I don't like it. That's not how I view things. I don't even believe in the concept of evil and good. That's not the thing I believe in. I believe in wanted versus unwanted. I believe in everything being energy. But to sit here and paint him as this good versus evil, and he's this evil and he's out to destroy humans, it's just not fair. And it's just not right. Like just because he's part of a prophecy for Ragnarok and he's coming to really kind of give the gods kind of what they deserve because of everything they put him through. It's really just not fair. And in all of his stories, when you look at the ones that I've talked to you about, and when you go look at on your own, he never actually directly is in adversary to humans. He is always indirectly with Ragnarok. I mean, because we're indirectly, obviously, affected by the end of the world. But he's not out it to he's not doing it to come after humans. He's not doing it because he wants the end of humans. That's not what's happening. That's not what that story is. And so I really love that about him. And I really, really wanted to make sure to bring that up, is that he really does have this amazing role with humans to where he really is intriguing with that, to where he works with us in a sense. And that's why I feel like he's so inviting. And that's why I feel like he's getting this big push. I feel like that's why he's becoming so big in modern times. And please also, like, Marvel got so much wrong. Don't don't take the history and take the stories from what Marvel has said. Like, it's just not right. It's just please ignore almost all that they have on it. But if you choose to work with him, just like I've talked about, be prepared. Like, you're gonna go really deep within yourself. You're gonna really, really go deep. You're gonna go deep in that shadow. Your inner child's gonna be pulled out. Your identity is gonna pull out. You're gonna really be working at that paradoxical concept of being human, of how we are both real and unreal at the same time, how we are both God and not God, how we are both, alive and not alive, how we are both destruction and creation, how we are both, good and evil. Like, it's just, he's really gonna pull at that for you. He's really gonna put you into the liminal space. He's a really good guide for that. So that's all I have in my study guide tonight. I'm gonna jump into the chat, see if you guys have questions, comments, and then, like I said, I'm not doing any work. I normally call the deity in. We normally go on a guided journey with the deity, but I do not have the energy capacity tonight too. So at some point in time, I will do some probably live thing to where I'll let you guys pick a deity that I either didn't do because of energy reasons or that you guys want to go back to, and then maybe I will do them for you guys then. But any questions, any comments? So I don't have a way to get you the recording tonight for the direct message because I don't have control of the recordings. Our director does. But we are just about done. So if you did have to leave, I'm really, really sorry. Yeah, she sent me. Yeah, I'm really sorry, Alexis. But we are just about done. Actually, I'm done teaching. So right now, all you're gonna miss is questions and extra stuff. So if you have to leave, that's okay. Thank you for still being here. I super, super appreciate it. But yeah, when it comes to recordings, our director Alex, she reviews every single one before it gets put up on YouTube because she wants to make sure we're not gonna break any weird YouTube rules and lose our channel, and that would just suck. So yes, you will be able to watch the replay. When, I just don't know. I can't give you an answer to that. She will post it when she watches the replay and gets it posted. And she always puts a thing, she always puts an announcement in the divination community. So if you enroll, ask us to enroll. If you aren't an enrolled student, you can see it there. She also always puts an announcement on our main page too. So you'll see that there too. I know, guys, it's late. I don't normally teach on Monday nights. I usually teach Sunday afternoons at 2 and then Thursday nights. So I know. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for being willing to be here. Honey, go ahead.
Is the number 13 considered unlucky in like a Norse tradition in any way?
Not that I'm aware of, but don't hold me to that. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna double check one part of my research here. I guess it really depends on your view of Loki. Because it's really seen unlucky when you look at the thought of like having 13 like dinner guests and like trying not to have like 13 people at, like parties and as like dinner guests, because the story that I talked about where Loki like arrives at Valhalla during the feast, he was like the 13th one to arrive. And also the other reason why some people consider like it unlucky is because that will then later tie to the fact that Judas was considered like the 13th apostle, technically. He's the 13th guest at the Last Supper, and he's the one that betrayed Jesus. So that makes it an unlucky number for that reason. But other than that, that's the only reason why I'm seeing in my research here why it's considered unlucky. And then obviously, it's tied to Loki. So if you have that negative connotation, that negative view on Loki, I could see some people saying yes, in Norse mythology, yes, it would be considered unlucky. That's a very long answer to your question, but does it answer it?
Yes and no, because I was actually wondering, since 13, I didn't know if it was a Norse thing or if it was just more of a modern, bad luck thing put onto him. Because then I was also wondering why a black cat wouldn't be attached to him, also considered a 13 unlucky, black cat unlucky, that kind of thing. But if it's just that the generalized superstition of unluck, bad luck is just tied to the number, and he was the 13th, and that's the 13th guess, and that's why it's tied to him, then I don't really see why the black cat would be.
Yep,
Which
that's,
that
I agree with you. I think you have a fair deduction.
sorry, I didn't mean to explain all that out. Um, then one last thing that's not actually about luck, just your Lilith summoning for your temple.
Yeah,
I so wish I could be there, but I have D&D that night. So I was wondering if it's maybe going to be recorded. It's not part of divination, but I'm not sure.
yes, it will be
Otherwise.
recorded. So, honey, why don't you
Yay.
send me a DM to remind me, and then we will figure out how I can get you the recordings afterwards. Because that is a paid one that I'm doing. So,
Oh, okay. I did not realize that.
yes, that one's through my business.
Okay.
But we can still talk
Okay.
because I'm doing
Okay.
scholarships
Thank
for a
you.
bunch of people too. So,
Well, that's nice.
yes, so we can still talk. So I never want people to
Okay.
miss out
Thank
on
you.
something for that reason. So, yeah, totally send me a message.
Okay. I really appreciate that.
No problem. Okay. Anybody have any other questions about class tonight? Fabulous. Okay. I know we had some new people. I know we had people some drop off. If you're still here, thank you for staying with me tonight. I'm so happy that you were here. I am sorry I don't have the energy for you to experience my bringing a deity in. Um, I apologize. I just 2-year-olds. He's almost 3, but like, man, they just like trying to take care of them when they're sick, and then everything that they bring around you, and like then you get sick, and like, ugh. But yes, okay. So again, thank you so much for being here with me tonight, you guys. I really, really appreciate it. If you liked what you saw, please, please, please send us a DM in our divination Facebook page, letting us know that you want to enroll so you can get reminders more often. You can get access to other things. I teach at least twice a week here. I have my business, Mod Podge Mystic, that you can check out. I put out content all day long there. I have a newsletter there that you can get access to for free. I have workshops and classes that I'm selling. I have ebooks and stuff there too. So you can check all that out there too if you want more information from me and about me. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I think Thursday, I'm teaching casting circles. Quite a few different ways to do that. The history behind it, all the different traditions behind it. And yeah, so if you're interested in that, you can see me on Thursday for that. I don't know what DV I'm doing on Sunday. I wish I knew. I will have to check the schedule. But thank you guys. Have a good night. Oh wait, I have to stop the recording first. There you go.